What if the most powerful biohack on the planet costs you absolutely nothing? What if it does not require a single supplement, a cold plunge tank, or an expensive wearable device? What if it is already running inside your body right now, quietly controlling your stress levels, your heart rate, your digestion, your immune system, and even how fast you age? There is a nerve in your body that scientists are calling the master switch of human health. Biohackers are obsessing over it. Elite athletes are training it. Longevity researchers say that optimizing it may be one of the most impactful things you can do for your health span. And almost nobody talks about how simple it is to activate. It is called the vagus nerve. And today, we are going to break down exactly what it does, why it matters so deeply for longevity, and how you can start hacking it today using methods that are completely free and backed by solid science. This topic exploded into mainstream consciousness after the 2025 Netflix documentary, Don't Die, which followed tech entrepreneur Brian Johnson on his longevity journey. Johnson was shown wearing a vagus nerve stimulation device to manage stress and sleep. Since then, the vagus nerve has received what journalists are calling the trendy treatment. Millions of people are humming into their phones, gargling with theatrical enthusiasm, dunking their faces in ice water, and pressing on their ears. All of them are trying to activate the vagus nerve. Some of those methods have solid science behind them. Others, not so much. In this video, we are going to separate the real from the hype and give you a practical, science-backed protocol you can start using today. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, this is your home for honest, science-backed longevity and biohacking content. No hype, no false promises, just real information that helps you live better and longer. If that is what you are after, hit subscribe right now. Tap the notification bell and share this video with someone who is dealing with chronic stress, poor sleep, or low energy. What we cover today could genuinely change how they feel every single day. Let us get into it. To understand why the vagus nerve is such a big deal in longevity science, we need to start with a simple but important concept. That concept is the autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system controls everything your body does automatically. We are talking about heart rate, breathing, digestion, immune response, hormone release, and inflammatory signaling. It operates in two primary modes. The first is the sympathetic mode, commonly known as fight or flight. This mode evolved to help you survive acute threats, like running from a predator. It raises your heart rate, floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline, shuts down digestion, and suppresses immune function. The second mode is the parasympathetic mode, commonly known as rest and digest. This mode is where healing happens. It lowers heart rate, activates digestion, reduces inflammation, and allows your body to repair itself. The problem in the modern world is this. Most people are spending the vast majority of their lives stuck in sympathetic dominance. Constant digital stimulation, work pressure, poor sleep, processed food, social conflict, and the relentless scroll of social media all trigger a chronic low-grade fight-or-flight state. Your body was never designed to live in this mode continuously. When it does, the biological consequences are severe. Chronic inflammation rises. Cortisol stays elevated. Mitochondrial function declines. Immune regulation breaks down. And biological aging accelerates. This is where the vagus nerve becomes critically important. It is the primary communication highway of the parasympathetic nervous system. When it is functioning well, it acts as a powerful brake on the fight-or-flight response. It is your body's built-in off switch for stress. And the degree to which it functions well is something scientists can measure. Something called vagal tone. Most people have never heard of vagal tone. But in longevity science and functional medicine, it is becoming one of the most important biomarkers of overall health and biological aging. Understanding what it is, how it is measured, and why it matters will fundamentally change how you think about your health. Vagal tone refers to the baseline activity level of the vagus nerve. Think of it as the resting fitness of this critical nerve pathway. Just as cardiovascular fitness describes how efficiently your heart and lungs work at rest, vagal tone describes how actively and effectively your vagus nerve is regulating your body's systems. High vagal tone means your parasympathetic nervous system is robust and responsive. It means your body can shift quickly from stress to calm. It means your heart rate is well regulated, your digestion is efficient, your inflammation is controlled, and your emotional resilience is strong. Low vagal tone means the opposite. Your stress response stays activated longer than it should. Recovery from emotional and physical challenges is slower. Inflammation tends to run higher, and the biological consequences compound over time. The most accessible way to measure vagal tone is through heart rate variability, commonly called HRV. HRV measures the tiny variations in the time interval between successive heartbeats. A healthy heart does not beat like a metronome at a perfectly regular interval. It actually fluctuates slightly with each breath, speeding up slightly as you inhale and slowing down as you exhale. This variation is not a sign of an irregular heartbeat. It is a sign of a healthy, responsive nervous system. High HRV indicates that your autonomic nervous system is flexible and adaptive. Low HRV indicates sympathetic dominance and reduced parasympathetic activity, meaning reduced vagal tone. The reason HRV and vagal tone matter so deeply for longevity is because the research connecting them to health outcomes is remarkably consistent. Low HRV is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, depression, chronic inflammation, and all-cause mortality. A landmark meta-analysis published in the journal Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews found that high vagal tone is associated with better cognitive function, stronger immune regulation, lower inflammatory markers, and greater psychological resilience. These are not peripheral benefits. They are central markers of how well your body is aging. Perhaps most strikingly, vagal tone is closely associated with what researchers call the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. When the vagus nerve is active, it releases acetylcholine onto immune cells throughout the body. Acetylcholine directly suppresses the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha, interleukin-1, and interleukin-6. This is the biological mechanism by which the vagus nerve acts as a master regulator of systemic inflammation. When vagal tone is high, chronic inflammation is kept in check. When vagal tone is low, inflammatory signaling runs unchecked. And as we have discussed many times on this channel, chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the most powerful drivers of biological aging we know of. The exciting news is this: vagal tone is not fixed. It is trainable. Research has consistently shown that specific practices, behaviors, and lifestyle interventions can measurably increase vagal tone over time. Unlike your chronological age, which only moves in one direction, your vagal tone responds to the right inputs. And the most potent of those inputs are, in many cases, completely free. Now we get into the practical heart of this video. There are many methods circulating online that claim to stimulate the vagus nerve. Some of them have strong scientific evidence. Others are speculative or outright unproven. We are going to focus exclusively on interventions with real research behind them and explain the mechanisms so you can understand why they work, not just that they work. The single most well-researched and accessible vagus nerve activation technique is slow, controlled breathing. Specifically, a breathing pattern with a longer exhale than inhale has been shown in multiple clinical studies to significantly increase HRV and parasympathetic activity. The mechanism is elegant. When you exhale slowly, your diaphragm moves upward and presses gently against the vagus nerve branches that run alongside your thoracic cavity. This mechanical pressure, combined with the drop in blood pressure that occurs during exhalation, activates the nerve and triggers parasympathetic signaling. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Medicine found that a breathing ratio of 5 to 6 breaths per minute, roughly a 5-second inhale and 5-second exhale, produces the greatest increase in HRV in most individuals. Even 10 minutes of this practice per day, done consistently over several weeks, produces measurable improvements in baseline vagal tone. Cold water exposure is another potently evidence-backed vagus nerve activator. The mechanism here involves the dive reflex, a hardwired evolutionary response triggered by cold water on the face and skin. When cold water hits your face, temperature sensors in your skin send a rapid signal to the brainstem via the trigeminal nerve. The brainstem responds by activating the vagus nerve and slowing the heart rate. This is why cold water on the face produces an almost instantaneous sense of calm in most people. You do not need a full ice bath to get this benefit. Splashing cold water on your face for 30 seconds, or ending your shower with 60 seconds of cold water, is enough to trigger a meaningful parasympathetic response. Research has also shown that regular cold exposure increases baseline vagal tone over time, not just in the moment of exposure. Humming, chanting, and singing are perhaps the most surprising entries on this list, but the science is solid. The vagus nerve passes directly adjacent to the vocal cords and the muscles of the larynx. When you hum or sing, the vibrations of these structures directly stimulate the nearby vagal branches. This activates the parasympathetic system in a way that is gentle, sustained, and accessible to almost anyone. A study published in the journal Music and Medicine found that group singing significantly increased HRV in participants compared to normal speaking. Even humming alone for 5 minutes has been shown to reduce heart rate and increase feelings of calm. This is not folk wisdom. It is a mechanistically sound intervention with measurable physiological effects. Gargling with water is another technique that works through a similar mechanism. Forceful gargling activates the muscles at the back of the throat that are innervated by the vagus nerve. Stimulating these muscles sends signals along the vagal pathway and activates the parasympathetic response. The recommendation from researchers is to gargle vigorously with water for 30 to 60 seconds, once or twice per day. It sounds almost too simple, but the neural anatomy supports it completely. The vagus nerve innervates the pharynx, and mechanical stimulation of that region reliably activates it. Exercise is one of the most powerful long-term builders of vagal tone available to us, particularly aerobic exercise at moderate intensity. The mechanism involves several pathways. During moderate aerobic exercise, the heart rate increase is largely parasympathetically mediated in trained individuals, meaning the vagus nerve plays an active role in precisely modulating cardiac output. Over time, regular aerobic training strengthens the nerve's capacity to exert fine control over heart rate, which is reflected in higher resting HRV. Resistance training also contributes, particularly through its anti-inflammatory effects, which reduce the cytokine burden that suppresses parasympathetic function. A consistent exercise practice is not just a cardiovascular or metabolic longevity tool. It is one of the most reliable ways to build the vagal tone that underpins resilience and healthy aging. We have established that the vagus nerve regulates inflammation, stress response, and autonomic balance. Now let us go deeper into two of the most exciting areas of current vagus nerve research: its role in the gut-brain axis and its direct implications for biological aging and longevity. The gut-brain axis is one of the most rapidly advancing fields in all of medicine. It describes the bidirectional communication network between the gastrointestinal system and the brain. For decades, scientists assumed this communication was primarily hormonal, relying on slow chemical signals carried through the bloodstream. We now know that up to 80% of the fibers in the vagus nerve carry information from the gut to the brain. The vagus nerve is the primary neural highway of the gut-brain connection. It constantly samples the chemical environment of your gut, detecting the metabolites produced by your gut bacteria, the state of your intestinal lining, and the activity of enteroendocrine cells that line your digestive tract. It relays all of this information to the brainstem in real time. The implications of this for mental health and cognitive longevity are profound. Research from the last decade has shown that many of the signals that influence mood, anxiety, depression, and cognitive clarity originate in the gut and travel to the brain via the vagus nerve. This is one of the biological mechanisms underlying the strong association between gut microbiome health and mental health outcomes. When the vagal channel is clear and active, Gut-to-brain signaling is robust, and the brain receives a rich stream of information that informs mood regulation, appetite control, and cognitive function. When vagal tone is low, this communication channel degrades. The gut becomes less well monitored, gut bacteria dysregulation is less quickly detected, and the brain is deprived of signals it relies on for optimal function. This gut-vagus connection has direct implications for longevity, because the gut microbiome is itself a powerful regulator of biological aging. A diverse, healthy microbiome reduces systemic inflammation, produces short-chain fatty acids that protect the intestinal lining and support mitochondrial function, and generates many of the neurotransmitter precursors that the brain depends on. When vagal tone is high, the gut-brain communication is rich, and the microbiome is better regulated. When vagal tone is low, this regulatory loop is disrupted, the microbiome tends toward dysbiosis, and the downstream consequences include elevated inflammation, reduced mitochondrial function, and accelerated aging. For the brain specifically, the vagus nerve appears to play a neuroprotective role that is attracting serious research attention. Animal studies have shown that vagal stimulation increases the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, in the hippocampus. BDNF is often described as fertilizer for the brain. It supports the growth, survival, and connectivity of neurons. BDNF levels decline with age, and low BDNF is strongly associated with cognitive decline, depression, and neurodegenerative disease. The fact that vagal activation can increase BDNF production suggests a direct neural pathway through which improving vagal tone may protect cognitive function over the decades of a human lifespan. There is also compelling evidence connecting vagal tone to the regulation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or the HPA axis. This is the central hormonal stress response system that governs cortisol production. When the HPA axis is chronically activated, as it is in states of chronic stress and low vagal tone, cortisol remains elevated. Chronically elevated cortisol is one of the most well-documented drivers of accelerated biological aging. It damages the hippocampus, suppresses immune function, promotes insulin resistance, and shortens telomeres. By strengthening vagal tone and improving the parasympathetic brake on the HPA axis, you are directly targeting one of the most powerful hormonal mechanisms through which chronic stress ages the body. We have covered the science. Now let us build a practical protocol that you can start today. We will also be honest about the limitations of vagus nerve optimization, because this is not a magic solution and pretending otherwise would not serve you well. Your daily vagus nerve protocol starts with morning breathing. When you wake up, before checking your phone, spend 5 to 10 minutes doing slow, controlled breathing. A simple and effective pattern is a 4-second inhale through the nose, followed by a 6-second exhale through the mouth. This longer exhale is the key. It is the exhale that activates the parasympathetic response and stimulates the vagus nerve. Do this before you introduce any external stressors into your morning. Doing it before screen exposure is particularly important, because the stimulation of social media and news activates the sympathetic nervous system almost immediately. This breathing practice builds a parasympathetic foundation for your day. Your morning routine can also include humming or singing for 5 to 10 minutes. This can feel awkward at first. Do it in the shower if that helps. The vibration generated by humming activates the vagal branches adjacent to your larynx. The research is clear that this produces measurable parasympathetic effects. You can also gargle forcefully with water for 30 to 60 seconds after brushing your teeth. This takes less than a minute and directly stimulates the pharyngeal branches of the vagus nerve. These two practices together require fewer than 15 minutes and cost nothing. But their cumulative effect on vagal tone over weeks and months of consistent practice is meaningful. Cold water exposure is best done at the end of your morning shower. The evidence supports cold water exposure to the face and upper body as the most effective trigger for the dive reflex and vagal activation. Start with 30 seconds of cold water on your face, and gradually work up to a full 60-second cold finish to your shower. If you are new to cold exposure, this will feel uncomfortable. That is normal. The physiological response you are triggering is real and beneficial. Over time, the discomfort diminishes significantly while the vagal training effect continues to accumulate. Evening practice is equally important. One of the most powerful things you can do for your vagal tone and your sleep quality simultaneously is to spend 10 to 15 minutes in slow breathing before bed. This is not the time for stimulating conversation, intense exercise, or screen exposure. This is the time to consciously transition your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic mode. A practice as simple as lying on your back, placing one hand on your chest and one on your belly, and taking slow diaphragmatic breaths for 10 minutes can produce measurable improvements in HRV and sleep quality within a matter of weeks. Research has consistently shown that the quality of the parasympathetic downshift before sleep directly influences the regenerative quality of sleep itself. Now, let us address the technology question honestly. A wave of consumer vagus nerve stimulation devices has emerged over the last 2 years, with products like Pulsetto, Apollo Neuro, and Truvaga leading the market. These devices deliver electrical or vibrational stimulation to vagal pathways non-invasively and have shown promising results in small studies. They are not without merit. However, several points are worth emphasizing clearly. The research on consumer VNS devices is still early. Most studies are small, short in duration, and funded by the companies producing the devices. The free, lifestyle-based interventions we discussed in segment 3 have substantially more research behind them than most consumer devices currently on the market. If you are considering a device, approach it as a complement to lifestyle-based vagal training, not a replacement. And always consult your physician if you have a cardiac device, epilepsy, or any neurological condition. The honest limitation of vagus nerve optimization is also important to name. Vagal tone is one important component of a complex system. High vagal tone does not protect you from the consequences of poor diet, chronic sleep deprivation, sedentary behavior, or unmanaged metabolic disease. It is a meaningful lever within a complete longevity framework, not a standalone intervention. The people who see the greatest benefit from vagal training are those who are simultaneously addressing their foundational health behaviors: consistent exercise, quality sleep, a nutrient-dense diet, stress management, and meaningful social connection. Social connection, interestingly, is one of the most powerful natural vagal tone builders of all. Research by Dr. Stephen Porges, who developed the polyvagal theory, has shown that the vagus nerve evolved in part to regulate social engagement, face-to-face interactions, genuine laughter, feeling safe in the presence of others, and experiencing emotional warmth all activate specific vagal pathways associated with social bonding and parasympathetic regulation. This is the biological basis for the well-documented finding that social isolation accelerates biological aging. Meaningful human connection is not just emotionally beneficial. It is a physiologically real vagal training stimulus. Your practical action plan is this. Start your morning with 5 to 10 minutes of slow breathing before touching your phone. Add humming or singing for 5 minutes in the shower. End your shower with 30 to 60 seconds of cold water on your face and upper body. Gargle forcefully for 30 seconds after brushing your teeth. Exercise consistently, with a mix of moderate aerobic exercise and resistance training. Prioritize quality sleep and invest in a pre-bed breathing routine, and protect and nurture your meaningful social relationships. These practices, done consistently, will build vagal tone over weeks and months in ways that are measurable, meaningful, and deeply beneficial for how you age. The vagus nerve is not a trend. It is not a biohacking gimmick. It is one of the most fundamental biological pathways governing the quality and trajectory of your health over a lifetime. The research is compelling, the interventions are accessible, and the cost of getting started is zero. If there is one thing you take from this video, let it be this. You already have inside you the master switch for calming stress, reducing inflammation, and protecting your brain and body from the accelerated aging that chronic fight-or-flight causes. You just need to learn how to use it. Thank you so much for watching all the way through today. If this video gave you real value, please like it and share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe if you have not already. And drop a comment below telling me which of these vagus nerve techniques you are going to try first. I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to hear from you. See you in the next one.